Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will look at topics common to both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today we will look at how to do queue handling within your applications using a queue collection. You will, at some point, be creating applications which need to do things in a certain order depending on information coming into your application. This is basic queue handling, as in a first in, first out. You can control this type of task using an array. However, within PowerBasic there is an inbuilt queue collection construct, which we're going to look at today. First of all, we need to create a queue collection object. Like the other collection objects within PowerBasic, this can be created quite easily. We merely have to declare our variable as an iQueue collection, and then using the let command to do a let collection equals class queue collection. Once created, this collection is currently empty. We can show that this collection is currently empty by using one of the properties of the collection, the count property. So we're going to create a local variable to store the number of items within our collection. And we're going to populate that variable by using the collection.count. So now we have determined how many items are in the collection, we'll push that out to our log so we can get a report of it. As this returns a number, we're using the format $ command to turn the number back into a string so we can send it out to our log. So we try running the application now. So we can see that it's currently reporting that there are 0 items in the queue, which is quite expected because we haven't added anything to the queue just yet. So now that we have created our collection, how do we add something to the queue? Well, you can add something quite easily to the queue by using the enqueue method. This takes a parameter. Now at the moment I've put the parameter in just as a basic string to say that we're going to add the text first item to our queue. However, to give us a little bit more flexibility, this particular method takes a variant as its parameter. So we're going to use a variant to illustrate what more this can actually do. So we'll declare a variant for our input. So we're creating a local variable called item input as a variant variable type. And we're populating that with the string we wish to put into the queue. And we're using the enqueue method with that variable as its parameter. So having added this item to the queue count should now return 1. As we're going to be making many calls to test what's in the queue and printing out to the log, we're going to make use of one of the other features of PowerBasic, and that is macros. This will save a bit of typing. Macros are a very powerful addition to PowerBasic. What we've created here is a macro called countItems, which takes in one parameter called long_countItems. It then has 2 lines of code, one to obtain the collection count, and a second line to print out to the log the number of items in the queue. The purpose of a macro is that at compile time, any reference to this macro will be replaced in the source code by the lines of code within the macro. So if we place a call to our macro countItems in the code here, at compilation time, the PowerBasic compiler will replace this single line of code with the 2 lines of code contained within the macro. But it keeps our code nice and tidy. So if we try running that now, we will see initially there were 0 items in the queue, and it's now reporting that there is now 1 item in the queue. So we have successfully added our first item to the queue collection. So of course we can do a simple for next loop to add multiple items to our new collection. And here we have a for next loop for long R equals 1 to 5. So we're going to be adding 5 new items to our collection. So within our for next loop, we have a call to enqueue to add the word test followed by the number, in this case between 1 and 5. And if we do a call to our countItems, immediately after the for next loop, we should see that there are now 6 items in the queue, which it does indeed tell us. So what we've seen so far is we can add items to the queue and we can count how many items are actually within the queue itself. So, having put information into a queue, there will come a time when you wish to pull the information back out again. So since we know how many items are actually in the queue, we can do a straightforward for next loop. So we're declaring two variables here. The item variable as a variant. This is going to contain what we're pulling out of the queue. The long item is going to be our counter for the number of items we're actually pulling out of the queue. So as it's a first in, first out, we're going to pull out the oldest item from the queue first of all. And that is using the dequeue method. This will pull the first item out of the queue and put it into our item variant variable. As we know exactly how many items are in the queue, there should be no problem pulling the information out. But it never does any harm to actually check that what you've got out has actually been populated. So we can test what's in our item variant variable by using the variant vt command. If this returns a value of vt empty, then there's nothing in this variable, it's completely empty. And if this variant type returns something other than empty, then it contains information. And we can push out to a log the string that's contained within the variant. We can turn this back into a string using the variant $command. If we run that now, we can see we're now getting the 6 items coming out of the queue, the first test and the test 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, a total of 6 items in the queue. We can also test to see what's left in the queue. The queue count should return a value of 0, as we have pulled everything out of the queue. So we can use our macro once more to count the items. And there we have, there are now 0 items in the queue. So in this demonstration today, we've been merely putting strings into our queue collection. However, since the information held within the queue is all variants, it gives you a great deal of flexibility. Variants can hold a wide range of information. Variant variables can be considered to be a type of container, which can hold variables of most of the data types supported within PowerBasic. We can store numbers within this variant, for example long integers, singles, doubles. We can store dates, dynamic strings, and many other types. The other one of interest is we can actually store entire arrays within a single variant. So your queue collection could contain a long list of arrays, queued up, waiting for processing. And with the simple commands of count to determine how many items there are in the queue, enqueue to add something to the queue, and dequeue to remove something from the queue. This will give you a great deal of flexibility for very little code within your application. Hopefully you'll find these queue collections useful in your applications, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching.